The best salespeople are coin operated. The way you evaluate them is based on how much revenue they bring in. It's no different for that salesperson themselves. Every good salesperson first judges the job based on how much money they will make. I never trust a salesperson that tells me it's not about the money, because you only make that excuse when you're hiding something much worse. In knowing that you want great salespeople, you will have to first acknowledge that your compensation structure is an integral factor in that. Now, I've set up a few hundred different comp structures in my day, and they all more or less drive at the same thing. We want to incentivize more of the behaviors and results we want to see and de-incentivize what we don't want. It's really just that simple. The first question I want to get out of the way is whether or not you should hire 100% remote, commission-only salespeople. Look, if you're trying to run an info products business, work a 4-hour work week, and have a passive income hustle, sure, you could probably do that. But if you're trying to run a real business, one that will actually be worth something one day, you're going to need in-house sales reps that are on a payroll. They're not contractors. Now, I say this having started my career in door-to-door sales, where I was paid exclusively off commission with no base salary. But those days are long gone. With the job market what it is today, anyone who's prepared to take a 100% commission-only role that doesn't have a 7-figure OTE, I'm not going to touch them with a 10-foot pole. When you provide a salesperson a base salary, you are committing to that person that you're going to employ them. You're going to give them financial security and stability. You're going to invest in their future, and that you have a vested interest in their personal well-being. So in return, you can ask them to commit to certain behaviors and activities that will lead to the success of the company. It's unreasonable to believe that a contractor will have the same level of commitment as a salaried employee should. Contractors are on 100% commission and are paid for what they sell. So if they don't sell anything, what are you going to say to them? It's not like you paid them to sell something, you're only paying them after they sell something. So in their eyes, they don't owe you anything because there's no fair exchange. That mentality, at best, serves for a short-term gain in reducing risk, but substantially sacrifices the long-term growth. Find a good professional, whether they're experienced or a junior salesperson. Find a professional that wants to work. But understand that this person will have a reasonable expectation to be paid a base salary. With that said, the base salary covers their commitments and daily activities to support the business. However, we want to incentivize individuals whose activities yield a greater result. Therefore, in addition to their base salary, you need to pay them a commission percentage for every dollar of revenue they bring in. Now, each industry and role has different standards for what is appropriate, so research that prior to setting this commission percentage. Now, the other factor to consider when calculating commission percentage is whether you will do it on total contract value or just the profit margin. The best way to determine the answer to this question is simply based off whether or not your profit margin has a high variant. If it's consistent, my recommendation would be to set a small commission percentage based off the total deal value. This allows for less ambiguity and more transparency for the salesperson, while also psychologically satisfying them because they're being paid off of a much larger number rather than a subset of that number. However, if your industry tends to have a habit of negotiating prices, then you want to motivate your salesperson to hold that margin. This is when you incentivize them with a larger percentage based strictly on the margin they are able to maximize. Now, another way you can get creative with your commission structure is by setting revenue tiers that denote new commission rates. Meaning, if their standard commission rate is 5% and their goal is $200,000, you can set a tiered commission system that increases the commission rate to 6% at $300,000, 7% at $400,000, and so on and so forth. This will prevent your team from sandbagging deals into the following month once they've already hit their quota. Now, there's two ways to do this. You can either retroactively do it, or you can do it on the incremental amount. Meaning, once they cross into that $300,000, you can pay them 5% on that first tier and then 6% on that new additional revenue. Or you can pay them that full additional rate on the entire month, so that 6% is on the entire $300,000. My recommendation would be to do it on the entire amount. Because if you do it incrementally, you're going to have salespeople that are going to mess around on close dates, adjusting them so they can get the higher value deals to close after the commission bump. I don't want them doing that, because in that foolish behavior, you can burn and lose deals. Never underestimate a salesperson's desire to do something dumb to either cut a corner or make an extra dollar. You can also use this as your forcing function for hitting quota, where you reduce the commission rate if they miss their monthly quota. So if they're supposed to sell $200,000 of revenue this month and they get a 5% commission on that target, you can make there be a penalty for missing that quota. Let's say they only sold $150,000. You can reduce that commission to 3%. There's going to be a 2% penalty for missing your quota. This is how you force the team to take their goals seriously. Hitting quota is a non-negotiable for me. Another factor to consider is when you should actually pay out the incentive. Many companies charge monthly or sign deals today but don't get paid in full until sometime in the future. The worry is that if the delay in commission is too long, the salesperson will lose motivation because they won't be able to wait for the fruits of their labor. However, if you don't get paid for 3 to 6 months or even longer, you can't pay today with future earnings. My recommendation is to only pay out the salesperson on the deal with the money from the deal. So if the initial deposit is enough to cover the administrative costs and the cost of sales of the deal, then yes, pay out the commission upon closing. But if there is a significant delay in the payments, I'd wait to pay until the deal is actualized with cash. That still leaves you with the delayed gratification problem. In those situations, while I can't pay you in full for the deal, I can pay you a small bonus that will give you some reward and gamify the desire to continue closing deals. I typically set up the structure to pay a small bonus of a particular type of opportunity at a particular stage. Meaning, if I know that our ideal client that meets certain qualifications reaches the proposal stage, I will gladly pay out 3 to 5% of that commission. Now, this is not the commission rate, but just 5% of the actual commission. So if the commission is $1,000 for the deal, I'll pay $50 for that ideal opportunity that makes it to that stage. In addition, if I don't get paid for 9 to 12 months after the deal is closed, I can't expect the salesperson to wait that long. So then in those situations, I would pay up to 10% of the commission on that signed deal. So if the commission to that salesperson is $1,000, then I'd give them $100 up front. So now the salesperson has made about $150 for that deal, and they're going to get that remaining $850 once I get paid. This rewards the salesperson and keeps them motivated. But at the same time, it prevents you from overextending yourself on deals that won't pay out for very long into the future. And worst case scenario, the client cancels and the sales rep is long gone. So not only did you not make the money, but you also lost money that you paid out as well. And in speaking about salespeople leaving, you need to protect your organization against a salesperson selling a lot of deals and then quitting. Only then you come to find out that they didn't set appropriate expectations with the client. I've seen this play out many times, and the company loses because they've already paid out the salesperson, but now they have to void out the deal or refund the amount that was paid and go into a hole. So to counterbalance this, I always recommend a reserve account. Effectively, it's a pot of money that gets held back from the salesperson in the event of a situation just like this. This reserve account needs to be filled at the rate you deem appropriate. I believe that about 2 to 3% of their annual incentives is appropriate. Meaning, if someone is expected to make $100,000 in commission, I'd keep that reserve account limit to about $2,000 to $3,000. So here's how it works. All commissions are paid into that reserve account. Every time we pay out incentives, either monthly or quarterly, we do what's called a clearing, meaning anything in excess of that $2,000 in that pot will be paid out to the rep. Any clawbacks and commissions come out of that reserve account, and all future incentives need to go back in there to fill it up to the limit. Now, when the salesperson leaves, you're still holding about $2,000 to $3,000 of their commission. This gets paid out to them upon the last of their deals being actualized. By doing this, you protect the company. However, let's be real. It's a small amount of money, but more importantly, this acts as a deterrent. When you put this measure in place, salespeople are psychologically demotivated from that last push of bad deals on their way out because they know they're not going to be paid on it. So the greater gain is actually the client experience, because it's not great to lose money, but it's much worse to upset the client. And while we're on the topic of protecting the company, let's not forget about that salesperson who perpetually sells bad deals. I like to de-incentivize this behavior by only paying out any bonuses, accelerators, or any extra incentives to salespeople whose persistency rate is above the company average. A persistency rate is effectively the client turnover rate. If 80% of your typical clients renew, but this salesperson's clients are only renewing at about a 50% rate, or if more than your typical rate of clients aren't living out their agreements, I'm led to believe that they are mismanaging expectations. So until they get their persistency rating out of the gutter, you don't qualify for any extra incentives. I would calculate this on a rolling 12-month basis if you sell annualized agreements. There are a million different ways to pay salespeople. However, if you follow our basic structure, you'll find that you're going to motivate the behaviors that will help grow your company. Remember, salespeople are paid to sell. I don't want order takers, so let's weed them out and grow the team members who are committed to the goals of the organization. If you want to build a world-class sales team, then you'll need a comp structure that goes with it. Download our sales team compensation calculator now so we can systematically guide you through all the intricate details of a proper incentive structure.